Welcome to Circles Off, episode number 93 on the Circles Off YouTube channel, part of the Hammer Betting Network. This is our first ever live show, 93 episodes in. Rob Pizzola joined by Johnny from betstamp. What's going on?
It's my first live stream.
Your first ever? No, you joined us on a Hammer HQ watch along during the football playoffs, but very briefly.
I stopped in, but this will be my first actual live. I can't make any slip-ups here.
Yes. It's very different than us cutting stuff out of the episode. It's a very different dynamic this week. For those wondering why we're doing a live episode. So typically, Circles Off drops Thursdays around 4 p.m. Eastern time. And we're pretty consistent about dropping it on Thursdays every week because consistency matters in the space, in the content creation space. It wouldn't do much good dropping an episode about March Madness on Thursday at 4 o'clock when the games have already started and people already made bets. So, hence the live episode today where we're going to cover a variety of March Madness topics. One, centered around how we suggest that you bet March Madness. Two, bracket conversation, bracketology, how to fill things out. And three, because they're emerging as more and more popular, some auction strategy. We'll also be doing Q&A right at the very end. If you're watching on YouTube, comments come in real time. Producer Zach, behind the glass, the fictional glass that's not really here, but behind the glass, is flagging the comments for us as they come in. Towards the end of the episode, we will answer everything relating to strategy. I'm not a college basketball expert. I can't tell you every player on every team in the tournament. You know, I can research that
Some
stuff.
people can.
Some people can. Me and Johnny are not those people. Where we excel in the betting space is applying logic to sports and being able to beat sports that we don't follow for the entire year. So any strategy-related questions, we'll definitely answer those. If you're going to ask me, is Purdue going to win the national championship or whatever, I'm going to tell you to go look at the odds, and that's the probability that they're going to win. So please keep it to strategy, and we will get to those questions. As a reminder, Pinnacle is a proud sponsor of Circles Off. They are the world's sharpest sportsbook, and they're now available to bettors in Ontario. Find out what professional bettors have known for decades. Pinnacle is where the best bettors play. You must be 19 plus. Only available in Ontario, not available to U.S. residents. And we preach line shopping a lot on Circles Off. If you're going to bet March Madness and you don't have a Pinnacle account, you're costing yourself the best odds in the market a lot.
Absolutely. So you mentioned a couple of topics we want to get to off the rip. If anyone has any questions, we'll pop them up on screen. If they are relevant to the topic, we'll pop them up right now and we'll start answering. So what's the first topic we wanted to cover there, Rob?
Well, there is a question in the chat here.
Perfect.
Before we even get to anything.
Rip it.
Jersey number.
Oh, of course. Number 93. It goes without saying, we're born and raised in Toronto.
Mitch Marner, London Knights, right?
Dougie G. Doug Gilmour, one of the most famous Maple Leafs in history. A lot of players hockey players wear 93. It's very common. In football, Dwight Freeney wore 93 for many years.
What a legend. The spin move.
Dwight Freeney, what a pass rusher he was. Calais Campbell wears 93. There's one basketball player that's worn 93. It's a trivia question.
I would not be able to tell you.
Okay, it's tougher.
Give me a hint.
He's a psycho. He's gone by different names.
Meta World Peace?
Yeah, and he wore it as Meta World Peace.
I don't even remember his regular name.
Ron Artest.
Oh yeah, Ron Artest.
Yeah.
Ronnie Artest.
Ronnie Artest going in the crowd, beating up the fans. Meta World Peace, Sacramento Kings, 06 to 08. So we are going to get into into betting strategy for March Madness here. But really quickly, before we do, one of the listeners of our show goes by T-Bone. His name's Timothy. He put together a GoFundMe to raise money for Gamblers Anonymous. In his own words, a lot of grifters grifting with legalized gambling and with March being Gamblers Awareness Month. I want to raise money for Gamblers Anonymous to help those in need. So I think this is a great cause and worthy of promotion. This is a month and a time of year where people can very much get carried away with betting. I think we can all admit that. There's lots going on this week, especially with live betting, so on and so forth. And there's people that do struggle with this type of stuff. So if you can afford to, the GoFundMe link is in the description of this video. Producer Zach will post it in the live chat as well. Any donations for a good cause would be much appreciated. Support TBones campaign, the Gamblers Anonymous National Service.
I think Rob only has a few more things to plug throughout the show. So bear with us here. Glad we put that on. A couple of questions coming through the chat already. First off, Mika Zibanejad, Peter Nedved.
Yeah.
Two other suggestions. I would say, both solid players.
So old school hockey
Rangers.
guys will get this. And because we made fun of his last name a lot growing up, it's sad to say, but I was an idiot when I was a kid. But Darren Pupa used to wear 93. Famous, legendary, not a legendary goalie.
Is he a goalie?
Yeah, he was a goalie. He's just like a backup for the majority of his career. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins as well for the Edmonton Oilers wears 93.
That's right. Former first overall. All right. I see someone here in the chat asking if they can get Pinnacle and bookmaker odds up on betstamp for tennis. Julian's in the chat here, so maybe he can answer that actually.
Yeah. CTO of betstamp in the chat. He'll get the response for that. So there's
Voracek, Johan Franzen.
There's tons.
We're missing so many legends.
93 is a jam-packed number
The
for
mule.
NHL. There's tons. There's different bettors that are betting March Madness. There's those that follow college basketball all year long. There's those that are going to take the approach where this is just a sporting event that they can bet. And I've already gotten tons of DMs this week on Twitter about if you were in my shoes, how would you bet the tournament? This is a lot of what's coming right now. So let's start from the perspective of someone who doesn't follow college basketball over the course of the year. This is my opinion, and I'm going to straight shooter with people all the time. I think the likelihood that someone is going to just start to handicap college basketball this week and win in the tournament is low. That's not to say it can't be done, but you're probably going to be betting without an edge. Like a lot of the stuff that's out there, it's not to say that you can't find like maybe some piece that's not incorporated. It's very unlikely, right? That you're going to find something that's not incorporated in market. But if this is like one of those weeks where you're going to spend 3 days trying to like cap the games, it's probably not a great idea.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what's not valuable is definitely learning all the players' names and making sure you're knowing the rosters ahead of the tournament. If you don't know them by now, it's not going to help you. It was probably never going to help you, but it's certainly not going to help you now.
Yeah, like you can put together a model for college basketball in a few days. That wouldn't be hard, but this is probably not something that is a viable piece of or a winning strategy. Let's put it that way. My personal opinion is if you want to have fun betting with March Madness, this is what I'm going to be doing a lot of this week. Anchor yourself to a sharp sportsbook like Pinnacle in Ontario or any other sharp sportsbook and try to get off-market prices. I know it's lame, and this is not applying to like the $5,000 bettor. Like if you're the $5,000 bettor and you've had success, this piece of information is not enlightening to you in any way. But if you were to anchor yourself to the Pinnacle odds, Pinnacle's taking a decent pop right now, and you just compare the rest of the sports books in your region to that price, you're pretty regularly going to find off-market numbers. That's full game, sides, totals, first half, sides, totals, player props even in some cases. So that would be my advice for someone who's just like new to the game. You want to have some fun with March Madness? You'll find a bet on probably half the games in the tournament.
Depends how many sports books you have, honestly. If you're in a region where you can get a bunch, sign up. Like another thing that isn't really getting as much credit is the promotions. They're big for Super Bowl. Everybody knows that. For March Madness, you got to shop around, but there's also a couple of promos as well. So when you look at even existing books that you might already have, a few of the ones here in Ontario offering some, essentially a free bonus free rolls. Hey, click here and get a team to win the tournament, or click here and you can pick one team to win the tournament at a boosted price where you get twice the odds. Some of these, $50, $100 max. Take those. That's a good way to build up your portfolio. What I like to do for March Madness as like a DGen who's just trying to have fun with the tournament, you're going to want to build up essentially a portfolio of bets, toss them in betstamp, and then have essentially a sweat almost on every game or just about. And in order to do that, you kind of have to start now-ish, today, tomorrow, and take a look at some round one games, take a look at some futures prices. So start building, take a couple Sweet 16s, couple Elite 8s, pick off some prices. And then when you get into the days, you're going to want to then already have a couple positions built out. Usually, if you're waiting till the day of the game right before the thing and you're like, it's 6 o'clock, I'm going to watch tonight, a lot of the value will be gone. Not saying you can't find anything, but would be great if you're listening on this live stream now, right after we're done, hop on. Like, it's a good time now to start locking in some prices for the Thursday games and the Friday games.
So I know Johnny really well off air, and it's why we do podcasts together and we own businesses together. But I know that you don't do a lot of your own college basketball betting for March Madness. That's handled by Julian, your partner. But I'm curious because I think this is interesting to a lot of people, but like the best times to get down. So you covered a lot of that already in that, like, you don't want to wait till absolutely last minute every single time. But I'm curious about like all your March Madness bets that you have so far. How much do you think you've already filled in terms of positions?
From now,
like up until now. Like I'm just curious about
the game.
Yeah, your early betting versus your late betting.
40%.
Okay, so it's close to. So you still have lots of work to do.
Well, of course, but I'd say up until the game, if you go up to the start of the game, it would be diminishing every second that goes by. A lot of it, like it's already Tuesday, right? The lines get posted right after Selection Sunday, so we're about 2 days in. Another 2 days left before the game start. Be about 12 Eastern. I think the first game always tips off around 12:10 Eastern, 12:30 Eastern on the Thursday. If you're waiting until that time, right before the game, to try to build your positions and build all your futures, it's going to be actually a sweat to get it all in, because as soon as the first game tips off, now that region that just started, you can no longer bet that region for futures. You can't bet this. They'll take everything off the board. Most books are going to go pulling numbers. So for all this stuff, just honestly, best advice is get it done by Wednesday by the time you go to bed.
Fair enough.
Wednesday night.
I think that makes a lot of sense. You'll find stuff on game day, don't get me wrong, but it's just not going to be as lucrative, in my opinion, and based off of what I've seen in past years. If you're someone that's not going to take this advice, and this just doesn't appeal to you, there's people out there that are like, yeah, I don't want to bet somebody else's opinion. I don't want to be anchored to a certain number. I want to bet my own opinions. That's fine. I think at the bare minimum, and this is extremely repetitive with stuff that we've covered on the show before, but at the bare minimum, please bet at multiple sports books. Like that's, if you are just going to bet at one book over the course of March Madness, it's a mistake. Like it's really a big mistake. Now bet within your limits. Obviously not everyone can go open up an account at 10 different sports books and deposit a ton of money. I'm not suggesting that you do that, but for the love of God, you have to price shop in this. And like, there's different books that have different markets on everything right now, period. Some games, spread's 13. Same book in another region, the spread's 14. Significant difference between those two numbers. You know how you know that? Go to the book that's 14 and try to buy a full point down to 13. And you'll see what the difference is in terms of price. So definitely, if you're going to be someone who wants to bet your own opinion, wants to feel like you have some input into what you're betting and handicap things yourself, it's not what I would suggest, but there are people that are able to succeed like that. I think it's few and far between.
Okay, couple questions that came in that are pretty timely here. So this one I really like is it better to place a future on the tournament winner, or is it better to just roll them over every game?
The mechanical parlay, as one would call it.
The mechanical parlay. So in a scenario where it's a full tournament style like this, what you can do is just save some money aside and bet that team every single game. To be clear, if we're talking like NHL playoffs or NBA playoffs, you could do this with series futures, but you can't necessarily do this with the game because, the Lakers could win one, Clippers next, Lakers next. You don't pick who wins the game. You only pick who wins a series. But something like, let's say, World Cup, March Madness, NFL playoffs, you do get the opportunity to actually roll this over. So the short answer is very simple. It all depends on the price. So you can price this out pretty easily if you know how to project what the team is going to be versus another team. So what I would do to start this, you got to whip up a little Excel doc. It's not too complicated in terms of the math. The key is in projecting what money line this team would be in certain scenarios. And essentially what you're going to do is run through the bracket and then assign these teams a percentage odds of winning and then a percentage odds of what they're going to be. So I know it's a little confusing right now, but I'll give an example that should be able to clear it up. You take round one, okay? Let's say you got two teams that are minus 110. So now it's a pick 'em, 50-50 likelihood of each team winning. So if you put on $100 on that game and you win, let's say you got it at plus 100, you're going to now have $200 to bet on the next game.
Yep.
So the first step is you're always going to take your risk plus your win amount and now roll that over to round two. So now you got $200.
And sorry to interrupt you, you do not have to do this all at the same sportsbook either. Like you're always going to look
it
for the
will likely
best
be
odds.
different sports books.
Correct.
So now, in order if you want to project it, let's say like, should I take this team at 17-1 to win the tournament? Now what you have to do is say, for them to win all of their games, will I likely achieve better than 17-1? So you take your first bet, it's plus 100 in round one. Great. Now you have $200. Round two. The best way to do it is say, what will they be to win versus team A that they could play? What would they to be to win versus team B that they can play? Take the two spreads from those teams, assign it a percentage, and then now you're like, okay, 30% likely to play Purdue, which would be a 20% likelihood of winning, 70% likely to play Team X, which would be an 80% of winning. Sum, multiply, and then now you have your odds for that game. So you're saying, in summation, they should be roughly minus 170 in round two or plus 170 in round two. Take your initial 200. Now you're back. So you 200 times plus 170, that would pay out 340. And then now you're 340 plus your initial 200. Now you have 540. Roll to the next round, rinse, repeat until you get to the finals. If that amount is equal to or greater than your 1700 from your 17-1 future, you win. And that's the bet you should just aim to roll over. I know it was a hard explanation. I hope it makes sense for hopefully a lot of the people who are a bit more mathematically advanced.
Right. And for some people who don't understand why you would want to do this, I think a very easy exercise in understanding why this is the case is pick any sports book, literally any sports book, and go to the NCAA men's tournament winner. Convert every single one of the odds to a probability. Pinnacle has Alabama plus 705, Houston plus 460, Purdue plus 1112. Convert these all to a probability. And what you're going to find in every single case is that they're not going to add up to 100%. And depending on some of the sports books, it's going to be more egregious than others. You might get an entire tournament winner pool that adds up to 120%. And people say this all the time. Well, this doesn't make sense. How is there a 120% chance for all these teams to win? There's not. There's 100%. It can only add up to 100%. This is the built-in sportsbook hold. In a lot of these markets, especially for March Madness, there is a ton of built-in hold. And you don't have that same amount of hold on a game-to-game basis. That's why rolling it over, the mechanical parlay, as it's dubbed, is often the way to play it. Not always. It's not a given, but more often than not, you're in better boat for that.
I couldn't agree more. It really ends up being a projection game. So if you're not good at projecting out what they'd be versus X team and whatever, sometimes you might be able to look at advanced lines. Sometimes what you could do is even take a shortcut and say, okay, this sportsbook has a great price on this team to make the Sweet 16. So assume I hit this, make the Sweet 16, then I roll over to that might be a shortcut way to do it. All in, Rob hit on it. There's going to be a lower hold on the actual games, with especially if you're shopping around book to book than on the futures market. And if you really want to place a bet on your team to win, you're going to want to just do it like that. Another thing is people sometimes place these like big long shot bets, and then they want to hedge out at the end. If you're doing it when you're placing them book by book, then it comes to the end, you may realize, hey, this is too much exposure for me. I didn't want to have like $100,000 bet riding on this final game, so I don't need to bet 50 grand. I'll just bet a little bit less. However, in vice versa, if you hit a really long shot and you wanted to bet like 10 grand on the futures bet to win $1 million, you also got to realize that for that final game, it's going to be tough to get $550,000 down on the game. You may not have it. You may have it in different sports books. You may not be able to get the best price. Books might not take it. So that also has to be a factor as well. What we're suggesting to do with rolling it over works a lot better for someone who would be looking to achieve a payout of around 10 or 20 grand as opposed to $1 million.
Correct. A few other ones I want to get to here. One is a funny one.
Go for it.
If you had to bet your life savings on a March Madness bets picked by one of the following, who would you choose? Ben the Better, Philly Godfather, or Lisa Ann?
What is it? They give one bet and I have to tail one of them?
It's not specific.
Okay, not Ben the Better, because he literally purposely picks the worst price in the market.
Ben the Better is dead last in this by a mile.
Does Lisa Ann have a sportsbook sponsor?
I think offshore sponsor, if I recall correctly.
What's the sponsor?
I believe she has an offshore.
Don't really want to search up her Twitter to find this.
Yeah,
Okay.
I believe she has an offshore sportsbook partner.
I honestly, give me the Godfather.
I same with me. Philly Godfather, like as much as I don't like the guy, and I think that his pick selling service is a complete scam, I don't doubt the guy's ability to win. Like he knows what it takes to win. He values the same thing as everyone else, beating the number. It's just that he's giving the pick buyers the shaft, basically, with the purchase. So
exactly.
Philly Godfather, the nicest thing I'll ever say about him.
Well, he's better. He's definitely better than Ben the Better.
It's not even remotely close. I would lay probably minus 500 on Philly Godfather versus Ben the Better over the course of a year. More than that.
I'll add in some transparency here. Someone asked, can you confirm Pinnacle is the best, or are you just saying that because you have to? I will say this. We definitely don't say anything on the show that we don't believe from a sponsorship perspective. The reason, and we've had offers from multiple different sports books to sponsor the podcast, and the reason why we work with Pinnacle right now and why we are so happy to, have people have our listener base play at Pinnacle is because Rob and I truly do play there ourselves on a daily basis. All of the stuff that we preach is legit, and they don't give us preferential treatment because we're like an influencer, if you want to call it that. So Rob and I's Pinnacle account limit under our personal name is the exact same as the one you would get if you signed up. We don't have higher limits. We don't have better odds. We don't have anything. It's very transparent, tried and true. The limit is the limit that goes for everybody. So that's why we promote Pinnacle. We're not saying them they don't have to. With that being said, when you're saying, can you confirm Pinnacle is the best? I will say, from the research I have done, I do not think, and I'll leave it at this, I do not think Pinnacle is the sharpest sports book in the world when it comes to college basketball, specifically during the regular season. Throughout the tournament, it does swing a little bit and it is a little bit different. And for certain other sports, I can say with near certainty, near 100% confidence that Pinnacle is the sharpest for that sport.
Especially the growth sports.
Matt, hopefully you're
listening.
But yes, it's a good question. Do want to be transparent. I don't think Pinnacle is the number one sharpest line in the market for college basketball during the regular season. However, with that being said, I do still think that they're significantly sharper than probably all of the sports books you have access to in your region if you're betting in a legal state.
Yes, I'll echo a lot of what Johnny just said. I think that the best sports book is a combination of sports books, if that makes any sense. Like there's certain things that other sports books will excel at relative to Pinnacle. Pinnacle doesn't have same game parlays. If you're betting same game parlays exclusively, you're probably taking a bath at a lot of the other books in general, but that's not going to be your book. But like if I'm going to go look and fire on a straight bet and I'm going to line shop the price, I'm going to bet at the place that I'm going to get the best price at more often than not. So from that perspective, I love it. Someone also asked, can you explain the Pinnacle outlier a little bit more or anchoring to the number? Sure. So first and foremost, if you're in Ontario, you have access to Pinnacle. If you're not, you can anchor to other sharp books. And that's exactly what Johnny just described, right? Like a sports book where the posted limits are the same for everybody. It's no one's getting limited at that book. So in Las Vegas, you have Circa, you have an offshore option as well.
Well, here's an example. SEMO versus Texas A&M, Corpus Christi.
Yep.
Game's on tonight. All right, you look at Pinnacle, I'm on right now. I'm on a regular Pinnacle account within Ontario, where we're located right now. Plus 3.5 on SEMO, posted limit to win 20,612 posted limit. Meaning, when Rob logs in on his account, it's going to be the exact same limit for him.
Yep.
That's $20,000 for anybody. And then what a lot of people don't factor in when they're looking at this book is 20 grand Canadian dollars, by the way, for those listening and might be seeing a different limit elsewhere in the rest of the world. Pinnacle not available in the USA. But minus 103 gives me a 20 grand to win limit. That is just the one click. So I can click this right now with one click of a button right here, live on stream, and it will bet this 20,000. What will happen is Pinnacle will then take that info. They will look at my specific account and say, okay, this guy wins a lot on his account, or this guy loses a lot on his account, this guy or girl. What they'll then do is move the line accordingly based on the person. So if my account is significantly down on college basketball and they see that I'm just a fan of Texas A&M and I've been betting that every single week, I just max bet Texas A&M, they're not going to move the line at all. It's just going to stay the same. And I can keep re-clicking 20 grand. If they think it's a respected account, what they'll do is that minus 103 will now likely become, if it's really respected, minus 120. If it's not as respected, minus 107. And they will give the person the chance to rebet again. So the limit on Pinnacle, really, if you think of it, is unlimited. You can continue to bet, but you're always going to get a different price. So if you're really good, the limit's 20 grand. But
if you're not getting a different price, it probably tells you a lot about your own personal betting.
Yes.
Nothing
what
worse
I'm saying
than
is I can click through.
max.
Like if I wanted to, I can click through. It's not going to be at a good price, but I can end up getting 100,000, 500,000 on this game in theory, as long as I keep clicking through. And when it comes to that level of intricacy in the product, which as you can assume, most other sports books don't have, they now have a level of respect and a level of sharpness to that line that those other books simply do not. So that really is what anchoring to Pinnacle is all about, is that their line is sharper because they actually get more information than a different sports book because they have that exact feature that I just mentioned. Does that make sense, Rob? Am I doing a fine job?
Well, I mean, you basically didn't tell the people, though, that they're trying to balance the action 50-50.
Oh, that guy? What was that about?
Prospector Pete or Prospector Sam. Yeah.
Yeah, but he's the founder of the 16-day millionaire challenge. Did you see that?
I didn't know that.
How dumb do you think the 10-day 10K guy is?
16-day millionaire.
Yeah, 16-day. You just had to wait 6 more days.
Being a millionaire in 16 days. What's so hard to understand?
Easy as that.
He's advertising that, or he did it?
It's his Twitter bio. It just says founder of the 16K or 16-day millionaire challenge.
I think we should do the 69-day billionaire challenge.
You to become billionaire in 69 days?
Billionaire in 69 days by just max betting Pinnacle over and over and over. Over and over and over. No, I hope that explains, but basically what you're doing is you're taking a sharp book and you're using their number as the source of the truth. And you're comparing all of the books that would take more recreational action to that sharp book. And listen, you know when Spanky says to people, and people don't believe him, like, I couldn't name you like one player in pro. I couldn't even name you one quarterback in the NFL, but I win at betting. This is what he, it's more sophisticated than that with like some professional operations, but essentially you just have to anchor yourself to a source of the truth.
Do you know a lot of players in college basketball?
Only now, because I've been like I'm doing content around college basketball. I'm not going to be the guy that goes on and like, oh, I make the game, minus 6.8. And that's why I like this side. Like, that's not
entertaining. Do you know Armando Baycott?
No.
Legend.
Armando.
Yes. Armando Baycott.
Northern Italy.
No.
Baycott. No vowel in the last name.
He's not. He's on North Carolina. He
Pinnacle.
almost won player of the tournament last year. Oh, he literally almost won. It was a big sweat around the office here.
By the
people
way,
listening might
Did
be
somebody
laughing.
got screwed out of player of the tournament? I remember watching the finals and
Yeah. So Armand, like UNC was winning big at the half. They were huge live favorites, and Baycott was he wasn't their best player going in. He was their second best player, but he ended up having a really good game there, and he was a massive favorite to win at the half. I think it was like minus 500 or 600, and then they ended up blowing the game and losing, and the bets did not cash on Baycott. Let's just say the bets
did not cash. Yes, 130 people watching the stream. We only have 31 likes. Make sure that you smash that like button if you haven't done so already. It does allow for people to find our content, and if people find our content, we grow our subscriber base.
So I'm reading through a lot of the comments, and I don't want people to think that we're ignoring a lot of these, because they are some that we are planning to cover in great depth. So someone asking about the Bet to Process Calcutta, we're going to have a whole section on that in a bit. Other people asking about their bracket challenges, strategy for larger pools or survivor pools, and we are going to cover that as well. So apologies that you're going to have to wait a little bit, but I can assure you that we will do it. Pinnacle, let's go. Very well explained, guys. Someone from Pinnacle commenting. P.S. Do the billionaire challenge elsewhere. Fair enough.
All right.
What else are you betting on for the tournament? What other markets?
Okay, so I'm going to tell you. I'll tell you what I've done already, and you guys out there can use this for future years. Okay, so it's not applicable advice to now, but someone out there is going to be like, "Oh, Rob Pizzola, what a poor or whatever." He's betting openers, and I don't know anything about college basketball, but I want to get good numbers and I want a lot of volume for the tournament. So here's what happens. I noticed that we're doing the Selection Sunday show, and DraftKings is posting really quickly. A lot of the other more recreational shops are posting quickly. Then what happened? Circa, Pinnacle, Chris all posted their numbers fairly quickly over the course of an hour. But they released game by game. It's not like they released the entire board. It's like, here's our number on one game, $2,000 limit. People can go and bet them. You find massive edges on that you're just not going to get at any other point. And listen, some accounts will get limited. Some might not, because they might be a VIP account or whatever, but it's money. Betting that at that time is money. So I already have a ton of positions that are not attainable at this point, which are very good numbers. Strictly by using exactly what I just described, using the market to tell me what the number should be roughly, and just betting everything that wasn't that. Now, over the course of the rest of the week is where I start to personally get plays from partners or stuff that I know is going to move, like Right Angle Sports, right? Right Angle Sports is doing live streams throughout the tournament, free picks. I'm going to bet that stuff because it's going to move. And then I'll decide whether I want to keep that or do something else with it afterwards. I have partners who have done fairly successfully betting college basketball through originating. I'll bet their stuff. So I'm trying to get down whatever I can. And now even into the props territory. There's a bunch of outliers in the props territory. So I want to have fun with it. Now, these are bets that I expect to earn off of. I would expect at the end of the tournament, I know there's variance, but I expect to earn off them. The problem is I'm going to be watching these games. And the live betting markets are going to start to cook. And that's where the negative expected value comes into play. But that's more of a recreational thing. And honestly, for a couple days of pure enjoyment and satisfaction and being able to get involved, it is what it is.
I got some live betting advice for everyone. It's not necessarily advice on how to win live betting. We did an episode couple months back where a guy gave out his betting strategy on how to win live. It was an absolute hoax. It was, just wait until the dog goes, then hedge it back and whatever. It doesn't exist. Doesn't matter. Here's what I'll say on live betting for March Madness tournament. Very, very simple. Number one, it's very hard to do. You're probably going to lose money. The juice is hard. It's very hard to line shop. It's probably a losing proposition to do versus all of the rest of the stuff we're saying. So if you're planning on having fun and using live betting as an outlet to have fun, then I would recommend you do it. But if you can hold live betting to a smaller position within your overall portfolio, it's probably going to end up a little bit more in the green than in the red if you're going to make live betting the majority of your portfolio. So that's the first thing I'll say is I'm definitely not recommending that be your primary means of getting down on the tournament. What I will say is some random strategies for live betting that I think would be more of a fun thing, not necessarily winning. First off, I don't bet the heavy, super chalky favorites, and I'll tell you why. This is a sheer mental game. When you lose a minus 1,200 live betting, it's not the same. You can't go on betting that day without being pissed. Vice versa, when you hit a plus 1,200, if that wins, you're going to be fired up. If that loses, big whoop, was going to lose anyways. So, hilarious advice. This is definitely a donk around strategy, but what I'd say is without a doubt, you got to hold off on those minus 2,000s, minus 1,200s for the mental health. Lastly, if you're live betting, the funnest thing that I do live betting for just like donk around money is a lot of people think, oh, I'm going to end up betting like super high dogs because I want a big payout. I'm going to bet plus 500 on a team to be down, plus 800 on a team when they're down. These are typically going to actually be higher hold markets because you can't necessarily line shop. You're just kind of around the game's switching so much. And if you're betting here, typically you are risking a chance of getting free rolled at those scenarios. The prices are jumping around way too much. I know you want the big payout. Would I be able to suggest something else, which is taking games that are on the commercial break, closer odds, and hit them with the parlay? Live betting parlay during March Madness is great because it's almost like a double sweat. You hit the first game, and you're watching that while the second game starts. So even if you're down in that second game, you're like, okay, but that's fine. And then also, if you're up in that second game and the first game's down, you're like, if I just catch this first one, the second one's there. So these are fun strategies, not winning strategies. But parlay over heavy dog, going to make you a lot more happier, enjoying the experience. And secondary, don't lay the big favorite. It's so much pain. Rob, over to you.
I think that the way that you bet March Madness says a lot about who you are. And the way that you bet it is like a lot of fun, looking for a big score, like excitement, entertainment value. What I would do personally reflects how big of an asshole I am. Okay? Because I watch March Madness Thursday and Friday with my friends. And I just sit around and they're like, oh, this team's going to come back and win the game, or this game is over. And I'm like, all right, here's the live odds. It's minus 200. Bet it with me. They're like, all right. And I just basically am the guy cheering against all my friends on Thursday and Friday for fake money, of course. I'm not running an illegal bookmaking operation. For fake money.
This guy.
But that's what I do. Now,
I'll tell you how big of a scumbag I am.
Now, every once in a while, I will get absolutely drilled where they're all like on the same thing, and it's fun. It's fun no matter what, because the amount of money doesn't matter to me, candidly speaking. It's just like for the enjoyment. And personally, see, there's people who like to all be on the same side of stuff. Like there's this phenomenon that goes around in the content creation space where people will bet the same thing as other losing bettors because they're going to have fun. And they just want to cheer with everyone. That's not my group of friends. My group of friends, we want chaos. We want like half the people on one side, half on the other. There's got to be like some rival. Like we don't all want to get in a room together and all be sweating the same thing. It's not like that.
I like the opposite.
Yeah.
I'd rather be on the same side as the boys.
So I think that's more my, I'm in my mid 30s. I'm a little bit older than Johnny. So maybe it's just my age group, or maybe just because we grew up betting against each other.
That's probably it.
Like, one of the people in our office right now, good friend of mine growing up, and we used to play on a bowling team together. Okay. When we were in high school and university, and, people on our team would strike, and I'd be sitting there like, what the fuck? Like this is, and like the other teams didn't understand what was going on. They're like, your partner, he's got a turkey. I'm like, yeah, I know. I'm out like a couple $100 because we're all betting against each other on this thing. So we couldn't even have like the team camaraderie. No one really understood that. But that's my kind of betting. A way where we can split the group into half are on one thing, half are on the other.
I'm going to run through the chat real quick and grab some questions here. So here we go. Here's the tip. Just bet the opposite of what Kanish posts. All right. That's a fun strategy. That's definitely not bad. I was invited to a dinner at the Keg tomorrow. I'm told this is the right place to ask for recommendations. Oh, it is. Bro, it is, buddy.
How do you know how much like marketing dollars the Keg has gotten out of this show for not paying us a cent?
Okay, probably not that much, but probably a decent chunk.
You know how many people have asked me about the Keg?
We've sent some people over.
We've sent some people to the Keg. We'll talk about it because this is who we are.
And my go-to.
Don't talk about it.
No, we'll talk
about it.
I didn't see that coming.
So my personal what I grabbed there is the baseball top sirloin, not to be confused with the regular top sirloin. So the baseball top sirloin, a little more rounded and thick, shaped sort of like a baseball. Fun fact, the most rare they can cook it. Sorry, the most well done they can cook it is medium rare.
Yes.
So if you like a medium rare steak, very well done. You got to go baseball top sirloin. Another hack here. If you get the Keg Classic, you got to ask them for a Keg Classic. What they do is they'll add a Caesar salad prior, and then they'll give you an extra garnish, probably some mushrooms and some other stuff. Significant value. You want to be getting the Keg Classic.
Yes.
Sides, I'm either a garlic mash or a cauliflower mash type guy. However,
you shouldn't have admitted that.
Oftentimes, a lot of people do like the twice baked potato there.
Of course.
It's a classic.
Absolute banger.
For me, I'm typically baseball top sirloin with the garlic mash. And then lastly, when we get into desserts here, without a doubt, a world famous dessert, the Billy Miner pie, which is in fact not a pie at all. No. It is a piece of mocha ice cream cake with just a delicious crust on it. And would highly recommend that to anybody who's looking for that. I wouldn't advise this, but if you do want to say, if it is your birthday, let's just say it's your birthday when you go there, free Billy Miner pie. Now, I'm not saying lie about your birthday, but all I'll say is they don't card you. They're not going to check.
No.
Free Billy Miner pie if you go on your birthday. What else can I recommend? Oh, by the way, old fashioned. If you're a drinker, you want to get an old fashioned. Not a bad drink there. They make it okay. What puts it over the top? The cherries. I like the Keg cherries. No. They're actually
different.
They're actually the it starts with an A.
I don't know.
It starts with an AM, but either way, the cherries in that. I liked them so much that once I went into the back and flagged one of the people and said, "Hey, who made the drinks? Can I see the cherries you used?" He gave me the jar of the cherries. I took a pic of the brand, tried to source them, couldn't get them. Couple weeks back, I took a friend over to out to the Keg. We got it. I was raving about the cherries. What a good friend. Guy orders me a jar of the cherries. He tracked them down online and got them from some random cherry supplier. And I do have those right now. So if you want, try the cherries and let me know what you think. You're not going to be disappointed.
I think you covered a lot of it. So you have a go-to. Me, I personally don't have a go-to. So I'll do different steaks depending on my mood. But the whiskey peppercorn sauce is a must-have for the steak. Whiskey peppercorn sauce is so good. And I will add that if you're looking for an app, the French onion soup.
Okay.
Big bomb banger. The French onion soup. I'm going to the Keg tonight. Now that
I'll see you tonight.
I'll see you tonight. This literally, the Keg, not the best steakhouse in the world, but very consistent. And that's what's very important to me. I could go to different locations. I know what I'm getting every time.
I will guarantee you will never eat a bad steak at the Keg, because if you get a steak served to you that is bad, no questions asked, they will take that back and bring you a better one that is to your standards. I'll probably comp it for you too. Great establishment.
And we actually did not get paid a cent for that. Not one cent.
If Rob could source a Keg affiliate deal, would be great. Anyways, do you think there is value in markets like number 1 seed to lose in the first round or a 14, 15, 16 seed to win a game? So what I'd say on that one for a Riley D who asked this question a few minutes ago, obviously it all depends on the price. Typically, you would likely find value in a number 1 seed to lose in the first round. So here's what I'd say actually. There was a scenario in which the number 1 seed never lost before. And then it was like everyone just pounding these at high minus because they thought, it's impossible for a 16 to ever beat a 1. After it did happen a few years ago, odds typically have actually adjusted down. So I'm not sure you'd make any money blindly tailing that. It's likely accurately priced. I'd have to take a look. But if you can find something that's off market, might have an angle there. Definitely not something I'd be betting blind though.
It's relative to the price always. So that's first and foremost. What's worked in previous years is not necessarily applicable to the following years because the markets tend to change. I will say, laugh it up. I bet that a number 1 seed will not lose in the first round at minus 750 this morning. Okay. So I actually made that bet. It came directly from betstamp social media guy who said to me, "What do you think of this price?" I said, "This is a bad price. Should be higher." So it's on him. Betstamp social media guy.
He's in the chat right now.
I'm dragging
He's
him.
Go nuts.
I'm dragging him through the mud if this loses, but we can all have a good laugh if it does anyway. So it's a win-win. But no, it really depends on everything is relative to price, right? When you ask a question of like, is this valuable? It's always going to be relative to price. So some years it might be yes, some years might be no. I made that bet.
Someone asking, anyone got any astrology or numerology locks for the first round? You're not going to find those here, but there's plenty of podcasts that I think you will find those at. Luke, our boy, he gave his order, 14-ounce prime rib cooked rare. That is that's an order. I'll say it as that. Yeah. That's an order. Rare for the prime rib is a little much for me personally. But I agree. The prime rib is great. Medium rare is what I'd recommend.
That horseradish.
Fade the public. Okay, fade the public strategy. We want to get into this for the tournament?
I'm never going to say never or whatever. The NCAA tournament's a little bit different than like a regular college basketball Thursday, right? In that there is so much more money that is coming in on these. In some cases, and I say this is with experience consulting for sportsbooks in the past, in some cases, there might be so much lopsided action on a game that a sportsbook is just not comfortable with that liability and they would move off of a game that they might not have typically moved off of. With that said, I don't find this inherently valuable, the fade the public strategy, in betting the games. Where I do find it valuable in the tournament is filling out your brackets, depending on the size of the bracket. So we can transition into that really quickly. Now, there's a lot of great filling out your bracket material here. On the Circles Off channel, released yesterday, Kevin Davis on the 90 Degrees podcast interviewed Dr. Ed Fang, author of How to Win Your NCAA Tournament Pool, this little tiny book that has tons of information in it. If you want some bracket strategy, you can definitely check that out. I listened to it this morning. Solid listen altogether. You can also head over to the Hit the Books YouTube channel as well, which is part of the Hammer Betting Network. If you haven't subscribed to that already, 998 subscribers. Put us over the top. Let's get a few more subscriptions on Hit the Books. We will have all sorts of bracket content. There's already some up there. Corby Craig, his process of filling out a bracket. Tom Casale. We're going to have Brad Powers up there. We're going to have John Fendler, who we interviewed here on Circles Off a few weeks ago, who definitely has more of a contrarian take to filling out brackets. A lot of our creators will have their own bracket stuff. For me, I can speak to this in terms of strategy, but the advice that I'm going to give is not applicable to everyone. So I think the first and foremost thing is that not all of the brackets and bracket pools are created equal. And you have to understand that. So like people are always, my friends are always asking me, oh, can you give me your bracket? Like, give me your copy of your bracket. I'm like, bro, I fill out like 10 different brackets every year. I don't know who's going to win this stuff. Like, it just depends on the pool that I'm in. How many entrants are there? Is one team likely to be picked heavily because of where you're located? Like I talked to Corby Craig this morning. We did a video, me, Corby Craig, Brad Powers, giving out our best college basketball picks for the tournament. Our 3 favorite. Me and Brad went head to head.
Give out opposites?
We give out opposites. Stay tuned for what that is. And I faded Right Angle Sports Steam as my sledgehammer pick.
Fair enough.
My claw hammer pick was opposite Powers, which was hilarious. But Corby Craig is like, well, I'm in Alabama. Who do you think people here are going to be picking to win the tournament in my pool? He's like, I'm going to have to fade Alabama.
Well, people are already picking Alabama.
That's what I'm saying. It's going to have 90% of people, so that makes total sense. Are there special rules in your pool? Like, there's pools where you get awarded more points for picking an underdog upset. So if you have a 10 seed favored over a 7 seed, you're going to pick them in the first round no matter. Yeah, if you have USC and Michigan State, I think Michigan State's favored 1.5 though.
Slight.
Yeah. Anyways, you're more incentivized to pick that upset if it's a close spread. So it's completely different for different people. I will stress a few things. Going contrarian versus what I would call going dumb, which a lot of people like. A lot of people do not understand what going contrarian means. You do not have to be an idiot or a moron and pick 2 16 seeds to advance in the first round because no one's going to do that. Like, no, that's not what you need to do. All right? It usually stems from the winner backwards. I like to start contrarian with a winner in a larger pool. So I will give an example right now off the top of my head, but Zach, on screen, we can pull up the ESPN bracket percentages right now. On the right side of the screen, national championship game. And you can just look at these odds, and I can tell you right now that UConn is undervalued or being picked less relative to what the market expects them to be at. And Gonzaga is probably a little bit undervalued.
This is a perfect chart. And screenshot this, guys, like, or Zach, share the link in the chat so people can reference this. But you can convert, sorry to cut you off, Rob,
yeah,
but you can convert the odds and then just see on the pick percentage. And this is ESPN, I believe.
This is ESPN's bracket challenge.
If you're just actually entering the ESPN tournament challenge, now you have a reference point. But keep in mind, like, it's absolutely insane to think that you're going to pick a 16 over a 1 in a tournament with like 13 people in it at your office pool. Like, that's absurd. Don't do that.
Now, typically the larger the pool, the more contrarian you want to be. Like, if you're in an office pool, I mean, don't tell this to your colleagues, but if you're picking with like 8 people, just pick the favorite in every game. Like, honestly, most of your colleagues are not going to do that. They're going to pick based off of the mascots like my wife does, and she beat me last year and has never like let me live that down. Do you remember our betstamp office pool last year?
Oh, yeah.
We got smoked.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. I don't care. The goal is to win. The goal is to win. This is what I tell people. But if you're going to do that, like if it's a small pool, you can just go chalk, heavy chalk for the most part, and you're going to be perfectly fine.
Yeah, like you can calculate an expected value of your bracket once you see all the other brackets. Prior to that, it's quite hard. But I'll give you an example. If you're in a 10-person pool and 7 people have Alabama to win and you have Houston and you're the only one with Houston to win, you're a massive favorite.
Yes.
Massive. So think of it as kind of like if Alabama wins, which they might be more likely to win than Houston, for example, if you think they are, then what happens is if Alabama wins, those people are now 8 people are now chopping up. Oh, I can potentially get this. I could potentially get this. If Houston wins, you likely have it in the bag. So Rob's mentions a lot of great things. The size of the pool is probably the easiest one to base it off of. If your pool is like 20 people or less, you need to probably pick a number 1 seed to win the tournament or a top 4 favorite. Doesn't necessarily have to go by seeds. Apologies there, but a top 4 or 5 favorite. And if your tournament has 10,000 people in it, then you likely have to not take a top 4 or 5 favorite to win in order to actually cash. So that's a simple one. There's a lot of different stuff. People have mentioned in here in the chat, even like pricing it out based on like the money lines for the first round. So that's a good thing for the first round. But once you actually get to the higher rounds, kind of like the futures example, it's a lot harder to project with the money line. So the best way that I'd probably do it is look at Open Pinnacle, look at Sweet 16, Elite 8 markets, and then base your pricing on that. And as Rob mentioned, working backwards from the top of the bracket down does help, or inside out, as some people call it. You want to put your winner in there, then you want to back it out. Mistake I see a lot of people doing is they'll pick like a 16 over a 1 or even a 15 over a 2. But then they don't realize that that round gives you 10 points.
Of course.
And then even if you hit that upset and everyone else had the 1, nothing happens. That 15 is going to lose in the second round. And now you just gained an extra 10 points on everyone and like 90% likelihood that they were going to lose the game anyways. And you lost 10 points to everyone. So if you're going to pick an upset, you probably want to, if you're going to pick a 4 seed to go, pick them to go, you know? And then actually if they go on the run, you at least get the points for it. But picking a 16 over a 1 in round 1 is absurd. You should I would go as far as say you never do that in any scenario.
Your goal in the bracket is not to be a hero. It's to maximize your points. That's what everyone's goal, your objective is to maximize the amount of points you're going to earn within your scoring structure, right? And in a lot of cases, like I'll tell you right now, I've never filled out a bracket in my life where I just didn't advance every double-digit favorite to start. Because what's the point? Sure, a double-digit favorite can lose. Of course, we know that. Like, it can happen. It's within the realm of possibility. But it's so unlikely to happen. I think the biggest mistake is people pick that big underdog to win, the double-digit dog to win. Not only do they pick them to win the first round matchup, they pick them to win the next round as well, which is so increasingly unlikely. You do not have to get to that level of contrarian in order to have success. You're also allowed to pick things that you don't actually think will happen. You're allowed to do that. Like, Zach, we can pull up the actual bracket right now. But like, this is just one example, I think, of being smart. If you go down to the West region as an example. So in the West region, we have a 5-12 matchup of St. Mary's and VCU. 5-12. And we basically have a 3-point spread in that game.
Scroll
3.5.
down here. Scroll down.
Right there, right there.
There you go.
Okay. 3.5 point spread. UConn and Iona, the spread's 9.5 in that game. Okay. There's no way I'm not putting UConn into the Sweet 16 here, just based off of pure probability and relative to the percentages that I saw them being picked in the Sweet 16 earlier. It makes no logical sense when you have St. Mary's and UConn might end up being a pick'em type game. But guess what? UConn is way more likely to get there. And so many people are picking VCU or Iona to go on a run here that relative to the pick percentages, I would never do that. So that's just one example of leveraging the point spreads in the early going to dictate what you're going to do afterwards. And there's a lot of ways you can do this. It's not like an exact science per se. You also have to consider the competition, like I mentioned earlier. I'm pretty sure if me and Johnny go into a pool together, we're going to have very similar type of brackets. So I might want to differentiate in some capacity because I know how he's going to pick his out and he knows how I'm going to pick mine out, right? So you have to account for all these things. And that's why I think that there's no perfect scenario, but you cannot go wrong if you're accounting for the point spreads, the probabilities of these games, and comparing it to the market numbers. Pretty good indicator of who's picking what. And I think that you're doing yourself a disservice if you're not paying attention to who's picking what.
Couldn't agree more. VCU example in that scenario, obviously bet down, but it makes sense. Like, you're getting a 4 seed at a significantly high favorite price, and most people in like an office pool are going to just be like, this is a 4. They're going to consider it the same as any other 4.
And you know what else? You know what else goes into that matchup?
What?
You have your classic trend, right? The annual trend that everyone talks about is there. A 12 seed is is going to win, because I don't even know what the trend is, by the way, because for the previous X amount of seasons, a 12 seed is always upset a 5. You do not have to fill out your bracket based off of historical trends. Okay? If, let's just say as an example, and this is not happening this year, but if every 5 seed was a 20-point favorite over a 12 seed, and now this is an exaggeration, it's extreme, it's never going to happen. But if every 5 seed was a 20-point favorite, would you then pick a 12 seed to win purely because every year prior a 12 seed is won? You absolutely would not. A lot of people beat their heads against a wall trying to figure out which 12 seed it's going to be. It doesn't matter. The seeds are irrelevant. The seeds are actually irrelevant.
I mean, yeah, the spread is what's important.
Exactly.
The seed is relevant. I'll tell you where the seed is relevant. The seed is relevant because it doesn't reseed. So you know your next matchup is one of 2 teams in like the first round, for example. So the seed is very relevant in a sense of like, if you are taking a team that is likely to play UConn in the second round, which is a good team, then you may want to avoid taking that team. They have a harder second round matchup because that's where they're seeded. But other than that, for the first round, yes, the seed absolutely does not matter. In any individual game, it'll never matter. But based on the way that the bracket's formed and shifted right now, you do have to look at which strong teams are where and then where they might end up. So, for example, if you're going to take a team like Gonzaga, who's a 3 seed, and to go, you have to factor in, okay, who do they need to beat? What is their road? There's always going to be like an easy side of the bracket where it's like, okay, this team has to only go through these 7 teams. Like, it'd be quite easy for them to get through. And then that it'll probably be reflected in the odds. One thing I want to bring up here, Zach, if you can pull this on the screen here and then maybe pin it in the chat. Anybody who's looking for some sports books, we always preach it. This is the first live show. It's a great opportunity. It's a new page that we're rolling out for the Circles Off channel specifically. We absolutely believe in Pinnacle. We absolutely believe that Pinnacle is an unbelievable sports book. However, what we've said from day one is this: the best sports book you can play at is a combination of a few sports books, not just one. And what we have for you here on the screen that we're going to pull up and what's linked in the chat is essentially just a sports books guide of what you should be able to find within your region. So if you go to this link right now, I would urge everybody, first and foremost, if you're in Ontario and you don't have a Pinnacle account, you have to sign up before March Madness, and you have to leverage that, as we just mentioned earlier in the episode. Leverage it in that way. Anyone who might be in a different region, take a look. So here's how to use the tool. Show sportsbooks in. There's a little drop down. Pick your state, wherever it might be. And then there's all of the sportsbook links that would be in and around what you can sign up for. As you'll see, most of them have sign-up offers, promo bonuses, things like that for March Madness. All I'm asking, if you guys can, support this show, support our brand by signing up through this page. We're very transparent about this. We mentioned it last episode.
Oh, well, we have the Philly Godfather's investigative crew.
His investigative crew dug this up. So the way it works is if you sign up via one of our links, we receive a commission for that. Zach, if you can go to another region, or most of our scroll up, maybe hit up like
Ohio or something like that.
So the way it would work is if you click through one of these links, we do receive a commission on our end. We do not take like a cut of players' losses, which some people do. What we do is we get a flat fee. Why it's important to us, full transparency, a lot of the stuff we do for free at zero cost to the customer. The entire betstamp app is free to use. We don't charge a cent. Anyone can download and get all the features for free. There's no pro version, no way to monetize it. Within the Hammer Betting Network, as you know, the only way we monetize these shows and these channels is through sportsbook partners. And what they need is people to sign up at those sportsbooks in order to justify it. So if you can help support the show, please sign up via these links. From Rob's perspective, I know he puts a ton of work into the content stuff, and I know you guys want to keep that coming. The only way that's going to really continue and be able to grow and scale new shows and new channels with new sports and stuff like that is if we grow the following, is if we get some financial support. So this is an easy thing for a lot of people to do. If you can go ahead and hit these links, share it with your friends potentially if people are looking for new sports books. Take a look at the different offers that are available. And, you know, all it takes is one book. Sign up for one book, take a peek, and use it for March Madness. Probably be able to make some money as well.
Absolutely. Well said. Secondary item here in terms of brackets. I will be filling out a bracket at some point tomorrow. We're running a bracket competition with the Hammer. The link is in the description below. You can compete against our top content creators from a bracket perspective. I know Moreto's already filled one out. Brad Powers will be. Corby Craig is in there. Our creators are filling out brackets. Now, a little bit of a giveaway for the winner. And I'm going to reach over here and grab this. And Johnny, you got one there too. People are always asking about these. And these don't come, we don't give these away typically. We have typical baby blue betstamp swag. We got the t-shirts. We do have some alternatives. And we got the betstamp hoodie, USC colors. Got another one over there with Johnny. We have a lot of these different types of ones. Top 3 winners get a betstamp hoodie that you can't find anywhere else. Period. Now, it is a multi-entry bracket. If you want to fill out multiple entries, that's fine. However, we're only taking your first entry. That's going to be the one that counts towards the competition. I did a horrible job getting this on screen, didn't I, Zach? It's okay.
You're good. You're good.
But these are the ones that people are always DMing us about. So we're finally going to give one away, which we haven't done in a while, right here. Couple caveats. There's only 2 things you have to do outside of filling out a bracket. You have to be subscribed to this channel, Circles Off. You have to be subscribed to the Hit the Books channel. That's it.
We don't even need you're going to make them subscribe to Hit the Books?
100%.
You're putting in some work.
Of course.
A chance at this hoodie.
You're not going to want to tail Joey Kanish's plays on that channel. I'll preface that. There's other sharper creators there. Brad Powers, Corby Craig.
Corby in the chat right now.
Corby's in the chat. Like, we got some legitimate people there that you're going to want to tail. And I say that with all seriousness. And we actually do track all the bets on Betstamp, under Hit the Books. So you can actually make your own personal decisions on who you want to tail and what you want to tail. But that's it. Subscribe to Circles Off. Subscribe to Hit the Books. People ask all the time, how do I get one of these?
I could also provide a little bit of a better prize as well. So yeah,
No.
We have the hoodies, 100%. We got a bunch of different colors, so it'll be a color of your choice. Pending in stocks for your size. And then what we can also do is we have some fresh for the summer, unbelievable heat fire merch, custom Betstamp Nike golf shirts, dry fit. Just came in. We also have some golf towels. So if you are a golfer, I guess you can you choose who you want to give it to.
We'll put together a nice care package. Let's put it that way.
It's a Betstamp Nike golf shirt, dry fit. This is it's a good shirt. Yeah. It's a good fire.
Plus, you get a meet and greet with Johnny as well.
No, you get to golf around with Rob. Mini putt only.
Mini putt only. Stay tuned, by the way, on that. Stay tuned. All right. Last topic.
Someone said you should be giving away free swag to all Hit the Books followers and make up for Kanish's college football picks. I think that might be something, actually.
Oh man, he's gonna hit me up with this afterwards. Like, hey, what the hell is going on here?
We have a few more questions here. We're about an hour in. What else did you want to go through?
Let's get to them. I definitely want to get to the auction strategies, which won't take a long time because someone already asked about that. But we can hit up questions right now.
So on the bracketology, someone a non-wagering here asked, assuming there's no points for upsets, you want to he commented, you want a fairly chalky bracket with the unique winner of the title game. Kind of the same principles as DFS, I guess.
Yep.
I know we just went through it, but that is absolutely spot on.
Yep.
Exactly what you want. You definitely don't want to veer too off the path and pick someone crazy, but you do need a unique winner. So if you feel that Houston might be that unique winner, go for it. Likely not in this year, but take a look there. Let's see what else we had here. Okay. Someone asked about running your own sims.
Yeah.
Heard 90 degrees. Kevin Davis has one that's fire. Rob, any comments on that?
So I run my own sims for March Madness. that doesn't mean that they're valuable. That's the difference, right? Like, yeah, of course. I mean, for people that don't know, it's actually not as difficult as one may think. Now, obviously, there takes some skill sets. You can run very slow sims in Excel. You might be better off, probably better off running it in some sort of programming language like Python or R. But if you want to learn about running sims, look up Monte Carlo simulations. YouTube is a powerful tool, people. Google's a powerful tool. You can find a lot of stuff on how you would successfully do that. So yeah, I mean, I'm basing my numbers off of simulations, but the sim is only as good as the person who's applying the logic to it. Don't think that because you run a simulation that you have something of value, is what I'm getting at.
Is Rob going to give out the team he's highest on, or is he going to leave us with the blue balls? All right, so it seems like he gave it out already. UConn.
It's actually Gonzaga relative to market.
Yes, I'm holding a nice ticket on.
So am I. I'm
fat Zaga.
We are all holding
34-1 right now.
Hit the books earlier this year. Corby Craig and Tom Casale. I listened to that episode. I'm like, you know what? This is a banger price, and I'm holding Gonzaga 34-1.
Yeah,
as I think a lot of people are.
I don't mind that. I mean, obviously at this point,
of course, you look at the price now, you're laughing it up. Yeah. And they got a good draw in the bracket too. It's not like they got a horrible one. But that's the team. Like, again, it's relative to market. It's both for brackets and for actual wagers. That's the team.
Okay, a few other people asking about specific props. Seems like a lot has already been answered in the chat there, so we appreciate that.
I did see that, the script is in.
Someone got the cherries. It was the Amarena cherries.
I
appreciate you. Someone in the chat who commented that. Thank you very much. Those are the ones. Highly recommended. My favorite cherry, the official cherry of the Circles Off podcast here on the Hammer Betting.
I actually didn't even see this, but the script, the leaked March Madness script, UConn over Alabama, 74-72 in the finals. How many people right now, don't be one of these people. There's probably a sportsbook out there that will now offer this as a prop. I was like, will UConn beat Alabama at the worst price imaginable? And the lineup, the amount of action they will take on this prop, you could offer it at 20-1 and people would bet it.
What did you say the score was?
74-72.
Okay, so I'm going to follow the same script as the Super Bowl, and I'm going to take Alabama 75-73.
Wow. I like your logic, Zach. It's like the guys at the roulette table that are marking all the spins. You know what I'm saying? And they're like, oh, this quadrant's it's gonna go in this and that. And I'm like,
but they did that. People did that and cared so much that they had to put up a little a screen now that tracks all the numbers so people could bet more.
I know.
It's entice betting.
Of course.
That's how they get you.
Bro, they have those cards at the table available for you so that you can mark the numbers.
Incredible.
It's just in case you want to give think you have a chance of beating roulette in the long run. There's your chance. There's your chance. Calcutta strategy. Those that don't know, auctions. You might have seen me and Johnny compete in Calcutta auctions before. Part of the Bet the Process annual tradition of running a March Madness auction. I will not be participating this year. Julian Packer in the chat will be participating this year, but it's becoming more of a thing now with people that just want to have some fun with their friends. So they run a March Madness auction every year. And people are wondering if there's general strategies. And I think the most clear-cut and obvious one is that you want to bid early for the most part. I've never competed in an auction before where the early bids do not end up being extremely valuable bids. And here's exactly why. The early bids are setting basically the floor price because everyone's got some sort of spreadsheet with the expected value of all their teams. And as soon as that first team gets sold off, they type in that number and they're like, oh, the pot should be about this. And then everyone is using that as a baseline. But if you're the first person that bids and you get that early team, guess what can happen with the second team? You bid them up to what the value should be. or drive the price up even more than what you think it should be. So this is generally a good strategy, especially if you're competing against people who don't do auctions regularly and don't know that. Now, that's assuming unlimited dollars, no maximum number of teams. Again, this is like a bracket, right? It's completely dependent on your pool. But typically speaking, even in the bet the process auction, where this is all sharp guys that are in there. These are all people that sustain their living from betting on sports. Nobody has figured out a way yet as a collective group to screw the first person over, which I'm hoping would happen at some point, but it never happens.
It's fundamentally not possible.
Because they can just bid the entire pool.
Unless you put a different rule set in.
Of course. But make someone be the asshole that buys every single team.
And then the fun's ruined.
And literally they're just like they're just an asshat.
Imagine buying every team except for like 2 and then losing.
Oh my God. Well, it can't be that bad. You would still collect enough money.
Yeah,
but if one of the other teams won the tournament,
that's what I'm saying. That would be crazy.
That would be a killer. But no, that's the thing. So, like in a pool like that, you can never not have a valuable first team. You're setting the price if you do it smart. And the same with all the early teams. And typically speaking, bidding early and late is where you're going to get the most valuable numbers. First 1 seed, that these Calcutta pools have existed long before Bet the Process did them. Back in the day, our friend Preston, Sports Cheetah, used to run one of these online as well. And the first number 1 seed always went for way less than every other number 1 seed.
Because it sets the price.
Of course. The early bid set the price. So that's the best advice I can give to anyone running those. I mean, this is not a game changer for a lot of people, but if it's your first time, you're trying to take advantage of your buddies who don't listen to this podcast because they're a bunch of goofs, that's the way to do it.
Fair enough. Anything else we got to go through, Rob, on this episode? We're closing in on about our length here.
Yes. So absolutely. Just want to let everyone know. We've partnered up with Capwise to bring you a college basketball guide for March Madness. Now, I'm a very transparent, open book person. I'm never going to tell you that buying a guide, like you're guaranteed to win. This is not what this is about, okay? But if you're someone who wants to handicap all the games for the entire tournament, this will save you copious amounts of time doing your own research. I would absolutely guarantee that. Everything you need is in one place. It's laid out easily. It's digestible. Some very cool infographics, live betting strategies, how teams have fared over the course of the year in terms of whether they've been able to hold leads or they've played from behind a lot. There's a ton of stuff in here. There's 4 pages of info per team. You don't have to jump from site to site to site, grabbing everything that you need. It's not for everyone, but if this is what you care about, having all the data accessible in one place, being able to handicap stuff yourself, then absolutely go and get it. The link is in the description below. If you use promo code HAMMER, you get $5 off your purchase. Once again, that's promo code HAMMER for the Capwise College Basketball Guide. I know a lot of you have seen Ben Carey here on the Hammer Betting Network over the course of time. He's a great dude. This is really well assembled, plain and simple. I got a copy myself. Seriously.
There's a couple things in here that I think are also cool for, listen, if you're looking to handicap the games yourself and do it, then yeah, like Rob said, it's going to save you a bunch of time. But outside of that, like one thing that I noticed was in here was just stats like free throw percentage by player. And that was always like an angle I looked at in live betting was like, if you're going to take a team to come back, college, main difference between NBA, late game situations, you have the 1-and-1 as opposed to the 2 free throws, meaning if they miss the first free throw, it's a live ball. So technically you get 4 1-and-1s near the end of the game. If they have a really poor free throw shooter and then he keeps getting the ball and misses the front end of the 1-and-1, that team can come back, essentially score 12, go on a 12-0 run without the other team even taking a second off the clock of their own time. NBA, it's not really possible because the players are a lot better free throw shooting and you get to shoot 2 free throws. So you're going to put some points on the board. This had every player's free throw percentage. kind of something you can pull open if you're watching a game. You see a team where you're like, holy shit, this team has 3 bad free throw shooters. In this current game state, they are set to shoot probably 4 1-and-1s in a row. The best free throw shooter in this game has 4 fouls and is going to foul out probably. Like, I think there's actually a chance that this team could come back and they're plus 2,000 or plus 17.5. And you think there's a chance there because of that factor. Be able to look up stats like that quite easily here. Obviously, the internet's a resource, but this cleans it all up for you and has it in one spot. And sorry, what was the price point again?
$34.95. You use promo code HAMMER, drops it down to under $30.
For $30, honestly, if you're looking to do any live betting or just handicap at all for $30, just buy it. It's going to be a lot easier than Googling yourself. Again, if you're betting $5, don't buy it. But if you're betting even just like 50 or $100, it could be worth it.
That's it. I mean, it's a great resource, and I literally used this when I was formulating my opinions for Hit the Books, which I recorded with Brad Powers and Corby Craig this morning. It was easy, like very easy to navigate through. I went matchup by matchup. This is what I like. Now, I don't expect to be able to handicap games and win, but I like to be able to look for some things that maybe are not factored into the market, that maybe I think are not factored into the market. I've bet on sports for many years and I've done it successfully. I think a lot of times the market is dictated by like these power ratings of teams, and sometimes specific elements of the matchup go unnoticed. Maybe I'm wrong, but anyways, it was a valuable resource for me. I say that in the interest of full transparency, but to Johnny's point, like if you're a $5 bettor, it would be insane to recommend paying $30 on a resource if you're going to bet $5 a game. Don't do it.
Yeah. So with that being said, we wish everybody an incredible March Madness. At least the first 2 days profitable. Maybe you donkey back in the weekend, but at least let's get that Thursday, Friday. If you're working a job where you're 9 to 5 in an office building, what a day to have a sweat. You could sweat the bets at work. That's the all-time here. That's the all-timer.
And you can sweat them along with us on the Hammer HQ tomorrow afternoon.
Thursday afternoon.
Man, like I need it to be Wednesday, or I need it to be Thursday already. It's too far.
So we're fired up for March Madness. We hope you are too. Thank you, everyone. We had a really good turnout live. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. We will see you next week. It'll be a recorded episode next Friday. This has been next Thursday. Sorry,
we both don't know what day of the week it is anymore.
Hey, when you record stuff on different days, it messes it up. But this has been episode 93 of Circles Off, and the first ever live stream episode over on the Hammer Betting Network. We'll see you all next.